Vacations are meant to be escapes, aren't they? A little sun, a change of scenery, maybe even a chance to forget who you were. Tonight's three tales are about getting away, but sometimes you go a little too far. Maybe you won't come back.
They'd been driving all afternoon, winding through dusty back roads and quiet two-lane highways, trying to find the place that didn't seem to exist on any proper map. The GPS had lost signal 20 minutes ago, and the last road sign was so faded it may as well have been blank. But when they crested a final bend in the road, there it was, the Del Rosa Motel, perched like a time capsule on the edge of the valley, its pastel sign flickering in the dusk. Everything about it looked pristine, too pristine, like someone had rebuilt a 1950s postcard from scratch. It pulled into the empty parking lot and killed the engine. Liz leaned forward in her seat, staring out through the windshield. "It's cute," she said slowly. "Like, really cute. Creepy cute." Tom chuckled, but said nothing. He was watching the neon letters buzz as if they weren't plugged into anything at all. A dry wind blew, carrying the scent of old leather and iron. Beyond the motel, the landscape fell into stillness. No birds, no cars, not even power lines. The lobby was small and silent. One bell on the front desk. A key rack with only 2 keys missing. And behind the desk, a man in a pressed uniform, navy slacks, white shirt, red tie, and a gold name tag. Walter. His smile was wide, but didn't quite reach his eyes. "Evenin', folks," he said in a clipped accent that matched his clothes. "Welcome to the Del Rosa. We've been expecting you." Liz laughed nervously. "That's creepy." "Don't say it like that." Walter didn't blink. "Wouldn't dream of it, ma'am." He handed over an old-fashioned brass room key. The tag marked Room 3 in looping script. No computer, no ID check, no credit card machine. Just a leather-bound register book and a perfectly smooth ink pen. "Breakfast's at 7 sharp," Walter said. "TV is work, but only on Channel 5. Pool's closed. Don't mind the power flickers. The lines get moody after dark." Liz tried to smile back, but Walter was already staring past them, like he'd forgotten they were there. The hallway to Room 3 was lined with wall lamps shaped like tulips, glowing a soft gold. Framed portraits of men in suits and women in gloves lined the walls, all in sepia tones, all staring just a little too directly at whoever passed. Their room smelled like linen and lemon polish. 2 twin beds, a rotary phone, and an old Zenith TV with a wood-paneled shell. Everything was spotless, untouched, really. The kind of clean that feels more like abandonment than hospitality. Tom dropped their bags and went to check the bathroom. Liz sat on the edge of the bed and clicked on the TV. Grainy static, then a flicker. A black and white show faded into view. "I Love Lucy." She flipped the dial channel 2, channel 3, 4, but it was always the same program. She turned the volume down and stood, staring at herself in the room's oval mirror. The reflection looked fine, but for some reason, it made her feel like she was being watched through it, not at it. They ordered food from a local diner the motel brochure suggested, but when Tom called, there was no answer. "Guess we'll go hungry tonight," he said. Instead, they poured some travel whiskey into the motel glasses and sat on the bed, toasting to old things and weird trips. Outside, the desert wind picked up. The TV flickered, and then came a knock at the door. 3 short taps. Then silence. Tom looked through the peephole and froze. "It's a guy," he said. "He looks messed up." Liz leaned over. Outside stood a man in a tattered leather jacket and greased hair, blood on his shirt and panic in his eyes. He looked like a frightened Elvis impersonator. "Please," he begged through the door. "He's coming. You gotta let me in." Against Tom's better judgment, they opened the door. The man stumbled in and shut it behind him. He said his name was Richie, that he'd been staying at the motel, and something had gone wrong. A man with a knife, killing the others, hiding in the rooms. He wears a white shirt, black tie, Richie said, slick hair, big grin. You'll know him when you see him. Liz offered him a towel. Tom handed him a glass of water. Richie excused himself to the bathroom to clean up. They waited. Minutes passed, then 10. The faucet kept running. Tom walked toward the bathroom door. It was slightly ajar. Through the sliver, he saw Richie, grinning into the mirror, grinning wide. In one hand was a silver flit knife. In the other, Liz's lipstick, which he was smearing across his cheek. He licked the knife slowly, eyes fixed on his reflection. Tom backed away in silence. He turned and whispered to Liz, who froze when she saw his face. They didn't speak. They just nodded at each other, then grabbed their bags, shoes in hand, and crept to the door. But the moment Tom touched the handle, the bathroom door swung wide open behind them. Going somewhere? Richie asked, smiling. His teeth looked too white in the flickering light. Tom lunged, shoved Richie hard into the dresser. The man fell sideways, laughing as he went down. Liz yanked the door open. They bolted, out of room 3, across the hall, through the lobby. Walter was no longer at the desk. The key rack was empty now. All of them gone. The bell on the counter rang by itself as they passed. They reached their car and didn't speak. Tom reversed hard and sped out of the lot. The rear tires screeched against gravel. Liz looked back, and her scream made Tom glance into the rear view. The Del Rosa Motel was gone. In its place, a collapsed, overgrown ruin. Half a sign, no windows, crumbling walls. Nothing alive. They drove an hour before either of them said anything. When they finally pulled into a gas station, Tom got out shaking. Liz just sat in the car, staring at her hands. Did we imagine that? She whispered. The whole thing? But then she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out the brass key. Room 3. Still cold. Still real. Later, they found a newspaper clipping online. The Del Rosa Motel had burned down in 1957. Electrical fire. 7 guests dead. One unidentified man in a leather jacket found outside, stabbed through the neck, grinning. The article said no one had stayed there since. No one could. The land was condemned. But their receipt said otherwise. They never went on another road trip, never took a honeymoon. Liz threw the key into a river and deleted the photos from her phone. But sometimes, when the wind gets dry and the radio flickers, Tom swears he hears static and laughter, and a bell ringing far off.
Ever since her divorce, Kara had sworn off holidays. Too many memories. Too many couples. But this summer felt different. She needed escape. A solo trip. Just her, a book, and a beach. No kids. Absolutely no screaming, splashing, sugar-fueled children. That's why she picked Solara Retreat, a luxury adults-only resort tucked into the cliffs of a remote Mediterranean island. The promise of peace wrapped in sunshine. From the moment she stepped off the shuttle, the place was perfect. Sleek marble floors. White umbrellas by the pool. Soft electronic music drifting through the air. And best of all, quiet. The kind of quiet that felt intentional. Designed. Kara sipped her welcome drink and let herself believe, just for a moment, that she'd finally made a good decision. Her suite had a private balcony with a sea view and its own plunge pool. Everything smelled like jasmine and salt. She unpacked slowly, deliberately, savoring the silence. The first few days were exactly what she wanted. Late breakfasts. Spa treatments. Books read by the water. She didn't make conversation. Didn't feel like she had to. The other guests seemed distant, polite but cold. Fine by her. She didn't come to bond. Still, something odd hung in the air, like she could hear laughter where there wasn't any. Tiny echoes when she passed certain doorways. She chalked it up to wind. On the fourth night, Kara sat alone at the outdoor bar, a candle flickering between her and an untouched glass of wine. That's when she heard it. A giggle. High-pitched. Fleeting. She turned sharply, scanning the patio. No one. Just the clink of glass and the hush of waves. Then again, closer. A single childish laugh. This time she stood, heart flickering. The bartender noticed. Everything all right, madam? Kara hesitated. Did you hear a child? He smiled politely. Impossible. No children here. But the next morning, there were wet footprints outside her room. Tiny ones. Too small for any adult. They led up to her door and vanished. Kara called the front desk. They apologized, suggested it was a prank from another guest, and offered complimentary breakfast. She accepted but didn't eat much. Something about the resort's stillness had shifted. The quiet no longer felt peaceful. It felt forced. She started noticing things. Small handprints on the glass of the infinity pool. Half-erased chalk drawings on the stone path by the garden. A faint lullaby playing on a loop in the steam room, too soft to be part of the spa playlist. One night, she found her door slightly ajar. No sign of forced entry, nothing missing, just a half-deflated red balloon bobbing in the corner of the ceiling. She didn't sleep that night. Just sat up with the lights on, listening. On day 6, Kara tried to leave. Packed her bags, called the front desk, requested an early checkout. The woman on the phone sounded surprised. Is something wrong with your stay? Kara hesitated. No, I just need to go. Silence. Then, of course. We'll have someone assist you shortly. An hour passed. Then 2. No one came. When she tried the lobby, the elevator was stuck on another floor. The stairs looped in a strange way, leading her back to where she started. She passed another guest in the hallway, an older man with pale eyes and a robe too clean. He smiled at her, but it didn't reach his eyes. Leaving already? Kara nodded stiffly. You shouldn't, he said softly. They get upset when someone leaves. Before she could respond, he turned and walked through a door marked laundry and didn't come back out. That night, the air in her suite grew thick, like steam without heat. Kara turned off all the lights and tried to sleep, but a faint sound woke her, a knock, just above the headboard. Then another. Then scratching. From inside the wall. She backed away slowly and saw, with mounting dread, a small crack form in the plaster. Then a whisper. Don't go. The voice was young. Sad. Then another voice, higher, layered behind it, stay. She opened the balcony door, desperate for air, but froze. Across the pool deck, dozens of pale figures stood watching her. Children. Silent. Still. Eyes wide and glassy. Some wore vintage swimsuits, others formal wear like from old photos. One little girl stepped forward, holding a teddy bear. You don't have to be alone anymore, she said. Her voice was inside Kara's head. We like you. Kara slammed the door, shaking. Her reflection in the glass didn't move with her. It stared back blankly, lips moving out of sync. Stay, it mouthed. She collapsed on the floor, sobbing. Something in her cracked, not from fear, but from the unbearable ache of loneliness that those children had tapped into. It had been there all along, hiding behind her independence. By morning, she hadn't slept. But she also hadn't run. She stepped out into the resort with a strange calm. At breakfast, the guests smiled at her. They looked brighter, somehow. Softer. The staff treated her like she belonged. The air was warm again. And she didn't hear laughter anymore, she felt it, like a gentle tug at the edge of her thoughts. Later that day, she wandered toward a part of the resort she hadn't noticed before, a small garden shaded by willows. There, she found a circle of children sitting cross-legged in the grass. They made space for her wordlessly. She sat down. One of the boys, maybe 8 or 9, reached out and took her hand. "We needed someone like you," he said. "Someone who listens. Someone who stays." Kara nodded. A single tear rolled down her cheek. It wasn't sadness. It was something else. Release. Purpose. Weeks passed, though no one noticed her absence. Her phone was found in her room, fully charged, untouched. Her passport still in the safe. But Kara wasn't missing. She was there, exactly where she chose to be. If you visit Solara Retreat now, you might see her, sitting poolside, smiling, watching children laugh in a place where no children should be. And if you listen closely, you might hear her voice, whispering just beneath the wind, "It's okay. You can stay too."
Elliot and Marie had been married for 42 years and never once taken a proper tropical holiday. So when their niece surprised them with a 2-week stay at an all-inclusive island resort for their anniversary, they were thrilled. White sands, warm waters, and no responsibilities. It felt like a last little adventure, and both of them embraced it fully. The moment they stepped off the shuttle, Marie squeezed Elliot's hand. The air smelled like coconut oil and hibiscus. The resort was paradise. Thatched cabanas, palm trees, a swim-up bar, and a private beach framed by cliffs. Everything was pristine, polished, and quiet. Almost too quiet, but they chalked it up to luxury. A smiling staff member greeted them and reminded them not to leave the resort grounds. "There's been a little unrest on the island," she said with a rehearsed tone. "But don't worry, you're safe here. Just enjoy yourselves." They didn't think much of it. The place was too beautiful to worry about politics. Their room overlooked the ocean. Every morning, Marie sat on the balcony with coffee, and Elliot wandered down to the beach for sunrise. They made friends with a few other couples, all older like them, and spent afternoons playing cards by the pool. Dinners were candlelit buffets. Drinks flowed without end. By the end of the first week, they had settled into a perfect rhythm. But Elliot began to notice things thinning out. The couple they'd met on day 2 were gone. Group of Germans they'd seen at breakfast hadn't returned. One morning, the swim-up bar was empty. No bartender. Just bottles left neatly on the shelves. Marie laughed it off. "Probably just changeover day," she said, flipping through a resort magazine. But Elliot felt the shift. There were fewer people at dinner, fewer staff in uniform. Even the background music in the dining area had stopped playing. It was like the resort was slowly powering down. On day 10, Marie woke up to find their towels had not been replaced. The breakfast buffet was gone. Only a tray with fruit and pastries sat quietly on a table by the wall, as if someone had laid it out just for them. Still fresh, still warm, but no one around to serve it. They walked the grounds that day trying to spot anyone they recognized. The main desk was empty. The spa was locked. A single housekeeping cart stood abandoned in the hallway. The door to the gift shop hung open, swaying slightly in the warm breeze. The place felt like a memory losing its details. "Maybe they're evacuating," Elliot said, trying to sound casual. "Maybe the unrest is worse now." But there were no announcements, no updates, no panic, just silence. A heavy, almost respectful silence that seemed to follow them from room to room like a shadow. On their final night, they sat alone in the restaurant. The candles were lit, and soft jazz played from a nearby speaker. But there were no waiters. No chefs, just the table set for two. The plates were already full. Their favorite dishes from the week. Someone still knew them. Someone was still watching. They didn't sleep well that night. Around 3 a.m., Elliot heard faint voices outside. It's not angry or panicked, just quiet conversation. When he peeked through the curtains, there was no one there, just the pool, perfectly still. The moonlight reflecting off the water was too bright, too clean. In the morning, their suitcases were packed and placed by the door. A folded itinerary rested on top. It read, "Departure. Today at noon. No mention of transport, no shuttle, no instructions, just a time." They ate their breakfast, again left quietly on a tray, and waited, unsure what else to do. At noon, the front gates creaked open. For the first time since they arrived, the resort looked connected to the rest of the island. Trees parted like curtains, revealing a dirt road they hadn't seen before. The sun was too still. The breeze had vanished. Something about it didn't feel real. As they stepped through the gate, something struck the man, overwhelming sense of déjà vu. Marie clutched Elliot's arm as her legs buckled. A noise rang out, sharp and muffled, like distant thunder or a slammed door. Then the vision came, a memory that didn't feel like a memory. They were in their room, day 2 of the trip. The door burst open, men in military gear shouting, faces covered, guns raised, screams aflash, then nothing. Elliot dropped to his knees, gasping. Marie covered her mouth. "Oh my God," she whispered. "We didn't make it. We've been here this whole time." The light on the other side of the gate shimmered. It wasn't the island anymore. It was something else, entirely soft and bright, filled with familiar voices. Elliot blinked, and there he was, their son. They had lost him years ago in a car accident, yet there he was, stood in the light, smiling gently. "I think you're ready to go now," he said softly. "We didn't want to interrupt your vacation, but everyone else has moved on. It's your turn." He held out his hand. Marie sobbed. Elliot felt something loosen in his chest, like a knot, finally undone. They turned around one last time. The resort behind them was crumbling, paint flaking, windows shattered, no music, no food. Just vines creeping up the buildings and sand reclaiming the pool. It had never really been whole. Just a beautiful illusion. A holding place. Hand in hand, they stepped forward into the light, not with fear, but with calm. The road behind them faded. The air warmed. The breeze returned. The only sound was the gentle lap of waves, this time welcoming them home.
If you've got a tale of your own, something real strange or downright terrifying, well, I'd like to hear it. You can send it to the email address in the description below. I'll be reading every one, and the best of the bunch will end up right here in the chair beside me. Good night.